Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about job hopping. So let's get into it. So the question in question was Frederick. Hi Frederick, thank you for sharing insights on this topic. Okay, so it was posted on one of my videos. I saw a couple of your videos about what could be considered job hopping and was wondering what are your thoughts about leaving a company shortly after joining, about 6 months, because it was not what you were offered. Economic reasons being the least important. So I'm interpreting this as that they're not paying you what you were expecting, or maybe they're paying you an initial salary and then like there was supposed to be certain progressions in income or something, and that's like not happening. But it's not the most important thing. But it seems to me that you got into that situation, which a lot of people can relate to. You thought you were going to work with A, B, and C, and they're actually not letting you work with A, B, and C. They're like having you on something else, or you're working with one of these things, or something like that. Things were not measuring up to your expectations, and now you're going to switch jobs after 6 months. So the thing is, what I usually do is that I promote that you stay in the same company for about a year. And the only reason I say that is not because you can't quit quicker than that. It's just that when a when someone who's hiring at a company is looking at your CV, they have these milestones, if that makes sense. It's not always a hard thing. It's because I mean 6 months, it's perfectly fine. Okay, you mean if you feel that this is not measuring up and you really are unhappy there, then just move. The important thing is that you have a good answer to why are you moving. Like you really have to think these sorts of things through, because uh, and I mean this can happen, guys. This happens even if you have years, even if you had been there for years and years. You might find that the next company who's doing the hiring, they're asking you things about, like they're asking for references. They might be asking like, why are you moving, like what made you unhappy, etc., etc. And this is where, because this is the thing, right? They want to make sure that you're not moving because you're a problem, or you got fired, or you're going to be a bad fit in their company. And that's why I say that they usually have these milestone measurements where they go, all right, if you have been working there for just a few months and all of a sudden, when you're like, it's not something obvious, because an obvious thing is you're a freelancer, you're a consultant, a project is only a few months. That's a very good explanation why you were there for just a few months. But if it was a permanent position and you were there for a few months, that's going to raise some questions, and they're going to want answers to those questions. And if you're not able to convince them or explain to them why you were there for such a short time, it's going to be a red flag. And that's why I say that usually a year is a good measurement, and that's a very I'm grabbing that number from thin air, guys. You don't have to some people will say a year, some people say 2 years, etc. The reason behind that number is because most of the time it takes about a year for someone to get really settled into a position. It depends on experience level, of course, but on average, most companies consider a person onboarded and up to speed and like at the level, sort of at the very least, where they're going to be after about a year. It can go faster, but that's about it, because you get to you can get to know somebody in 6 months and a year and so forth. Like if it's just a few months, it's really hard to tell, because you're a new hire. Even if you're a senior experience, it will take you a while to figure all the things out and like get up to like max productivity at wherever you're working. And so that's why I try to say that it's good for you to consider these things before you hop too often. But as I said, you seem to have been sold a position, or like the idea of a position that you weren't really signing up for, and that's a very good excuse, or like it's a very good explanation as to why you're moving so early. So I don't think you should worry all that much about it. So what I want you to take away from this is that it's perfectly fine for you to jump from one company to another just after 6 months of working. The reason why I urge you to think a little bit about how much you're job hopping is because you create a history as you do these things. And just as it's a fairly good idea for you to make friends with your managers and your coworkers and so forth, if they're going to give you references and stuff like that, it's a good idea to think about how often you're moving from one company to another company. I mean, if you move after a few months, like 6 months or something like that, once or twice, like a few times, or you're doing it due to the fact that you're freelancing, or there's like a good reason as to why you're doing it, then this is nothing weird, like it's nothing odd at all. But what you want to avoid is to to create yourself a history of not committing to anything, or a history of having being an issue at work, so you have to move because you can't maintain your employment. If that starts to happen, it can be problematic. It usually solves itself, like, as it's really rare, in my experience, that new employers go like at back to really old hires that you've had, or like roles that you've had. So usually when you get to the next job, like things kind of reset. So it's like one job back on average that people are going to check your references and things like that. But it's good to have these things with you so that you don't have a CV that reads like a really sad story of failures. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not get things right on the first try and so forth. Just be mindful of what your CV and your CV's history is. Like, what story is it telling about you, and have good answers as to why you're making the decisions that you're making. Have a great day.